So today we are going to start with VPC. VPC is one of the most important topic because it is most asked in interviews about how can we set up the VPC, how can we integrate VPC to other services, and what are the different parameter, how the network is flowing. Basically, this is come in the network, how the network is working. So that's why it is a very hot topic in interviews as well as in exam. So please understand each and every component which we are going to learn today. So we are going to cover VPC in three parts. Okay, so what is VPC? Features, default VPC, custom VPC, peering, net gateway, instance, NACL, workflow, Bastion, direct connect. Now what is VPC? VPC is virtual data center in the cloud. So all of you might have heard VPN. What is VPN? Virtual private network. So there are couple of public network and private network. In private network, every company, every organization create a virtual network which has a set of IP range which you have to connect, and you can access the application in the virtual network or the private network itself. So if you are working in company, if you are working in your college, they have their own network which is isolated from outside world. Okay, so each company has their own network. Okay, so in on-premise or on-premise it is called VPN, virtual private network. In cloud we call it virtual private cloud. So Amazon virtual private cloud let you provision a isolated section of your Amazon web service cloud where you can launch AWS resources in a virtual network that you define. You have complete control over the virtual networking environment, including selection of your own IP ranges, creation of subnets, configurations of route table as well as network gateway. So all these things we are going to learn. Now basically we are setting up the network in the cloud. When we are setting up the network, we have to select the IP ranges. So all the component, as I said, when you are creating any machine, when you're creating any virtual device, they need to connect to the IP range if they are in a network. So we have two type of network, public or private network, right? Public network means the machine is connected over the internet, and private network means the machine is connected in a given surrounding, in a given ecosystem. Okay, so all the computers. So in industry, there are very few applications, there are very few services which are public. Apart from that, everything is private, right? In the banking sector, they don't want to expose their data center to outside world. They need to keep everything private. But within the network, they need to communicate with each other. Within a given network, they need to communicate with each other. Okay? So that's why they want you to create a VPC. Okay. You can easily customize the network configuration. You can easily customize the network configuration of your virtual private net cloud. For example, you can create public facing subnet for your web servers that have access to the internet, and place your backend system such as database or your application server in a private facing subnet with no internet access. So as I said, we have to understand the public and private. Okay, so there are two type of network. So public network, so each company, just like your Facebook, your YouTube or any other companies, they will have two type of network. So whatever you are connecting, they are public servers, right? So their application is running on public, but internally behind the scene there will be some private network as well. Okay, where the machine, the database are kept in private so that no outside world can access the data. Basically, I'm exposing only the application or services which are required for public access. So in doing that, your web server are exposed to internet, but your sensitive application and database servers are not exposed to internet. You can leverage multi-layer security, including security group as well as network access control lists to help you control access to your EC2 machine in each subnet. So we'll talk about this in detail. What is subnet? What is private and public network? But we have to understand that we can control the security more as compared to if we are creating our own VPC, we have a good control over our network as a security point of view. So whenever you are working in cloud, okay, each company creates its own VPC. Additionally, you can create a hardware virtual private network connection between your corporate data center and your VPC, leveraging AWS as an extension of your corporate data center. Second, as this point suggests, that let's say you have your data uh, company already working, they have their own premise application is running, okay, and they need to connect to the network in the cloud. So the VPN, your company VPN, which is running on premise, you can connect VPC to your data center, okay, so that you can connect privately over the internet, over the your cloud. You can connect privately within the application which is running over the internet. Okay, so you are running a data center in your on premise, you are running a data center in the cloud, and you want to communicate between these two data center, okay, without exposing over the internet. You can do that using VPC to VPN pairing. Now this is the architecture of VPC which we are going to create. You can see it's a public and private subnet. Now what is subnet? I have used this word couple of times. So before that you have to understand what is network range, IP ranges. This is the IP range. So in a given network we have a list of IP ranges. Okay, list of IP ranges. So just like in your phone directory or mobile number, there's a list of mobile numbers which can be used, okay, in a given country. Similarly, there are the list of IP ranges which are enabled in a network. Okay, if you enable, so in this network we have this IP range. Okay, so how can we understand the IP range? Just just go to this website CIDR.xyz. Okay, and type the IP range. Okay, now here you can see the first IP. So this is a short form of how we write the IP range. Okay, so it is not feasible to write start IP, the last IP, Okay, start point, end point. Instead of that, we are just writing in a short form. If you remember in the school, you might have written 10 to the power 10 to the power 2 400, right? 10 to the power 5. Instead of writing 5 times 0, this is a shortcut. Similarly, I don't want to write the full IP range. Instead of that, we are writing in a short. Okay, so you can go up to 32 here. 32 means a single IP. Now, if you see, first IP and the last IP are same. Okay, so in a network, if you want to define a single IP, then slash 31. If you want, if you decrease the number, you will get the more IP range. If write 32, you are getting. If I write 31, you are getting only 2 IP. If I write 30, I get four IP ranges in my network. Okay, starting with 10.0.0.0. Here it is 1, but it starts with 10.0.0.0, the this IP, and ends with 10.0.0.2. Okay, there will be one more IP 0.3, but it is not showing because some IP addresses are reserved over the network. So if I this is the IP range which I am typing. So what is the first IP? 10.0.0.1 or 10.0.0.0 up to 10.0.15.255, but 0 and 255 are reserved. That's why the usable IP is 1 and 254. If I write here 1, if I write here 1, so you can see the IP has changed, range has changed. Okay, so this is the IP ranges in a network. So in Amazon, these are the IP ranges which we can use. If you want all, if you remember, we are writing 0 slash 0 slash 0 slash 0 slash 0.0.0.0 slash 0 in our subnet. If you see the first IP and last IP, it gives the all IP ranges of IPv4. Okay, if you write slash 0, it will give all IP ranges. Okay, if you give slash 0, it will give all IP ranges. Open all IPv4s. Okay, but in Amazon there are three IP ranges which we can use out of full IP ranges of IPv4. Okay, the first one is 10.0.0.0 to 10.255.255.255, that is 10 slash 8. Again, it's a short form of 10.0.0.0. Then 172.16.0.0 to 172.31.255.255, that is 172.16 slash 12. Then we have next is 192.168.0.0 up to 192.168.2.255.255, that is 192.168 slash 16. So these are the IP ranges we can use. Out of this, we are going to use this one 10 series, and in that we are going to use nearly this IP range 10.0.0.0 slash 16. So in your network, how many IPs will be there if I'm using this 10.0.0 16? So what will be the first IP? 10.0.0.0 up to 10.0.255.255, and number of IP will be nearly 65,000. So available IP in my network will be, we are opening 64,000 IP addresses. Now in my network, in my network, I want to create a small sub networks. So this is my whole network. This you can see VPC. This is a region. In a given region, you can see the maroon line. It is a region. US East 1 or AP South 1, Mumbai or Virginia. Inside a region, we are going to create a VPC. That is a golden line. Inside that, you will see this is my VPC, my custom VPC, and on top of that, we are dividing our VPC into small subcategory. We are splitting our network into small sub networking. That is called subnet. That is called subnetwork or subnet. Okay. Now, what is subnet? It's a small part of our network which we are going to leverage in our further discussion. Okay. So this is our subnet. You can see this is our one subnet. This is our second subnet. Now, why we are creating a small network group? Because I want to expose some part of our network to public and some part I want to expose to as a private. I don't want to expose completely over the internet, that means public. I don't want to completely expose everything private. Okay. Now remember each subnet or network in VPC is associated to a availability zone. It's associated with a availability zone. We'll see that. Okay. Now coming to the other part, you can see virtual private gateway. It is used to connect our VPC to different network. Internet gateway, it is help us to get the internet access to our VPC. So we are creating VPC. So VPC will have basically two parts: private VPC and public VPC. So in the private VPC, so we have a single VPC that it will be divided into small group. So subnet and public subnet and private subnet. So our VPC will have two components. Second, the component which is public subnet will be connected to internet via route table. The subnet which is not connected to internet, it is used for internal communication only. Now any EC2 machine which we are creating in this subnet will have internet access. Any EC2 machine which we are creating in this subnet will not have any internet access. And we have security group which will use for security purpose to control the access of a EC2 machine from different protocol. On different protocol, how can we connect? Okay, till here anybody has any question? Okay, now what are the parts of VPC? Launch instance in a subnet of our choice. So if you remember, while creating EC2 machines, we are selecting subnets, we are selecting the availability zone. So it's our, if we are creating VPC our own, we can create subnet, we can choose the subnet of our IP, our own IP ranges, as well as we can launch the EC2 machine in different subnets. Assign custom IP address range in each subnet. Configure your route table between the subnets. Create internet gateway and attach to a VPC. Then much better security control over the AWS resources. So for the security purpose, we have to learn about VPC. Assign security group to individual instance. We have done this. Subnet network access control list, NACL. Okay, these are the parts of our VPC. We are going to learn each and every component in detail one by one. Now coming to default VPC and custom VPC. Now what is default VPC? Till now, have you used VPC? Till now, did you use VPC Is VPC is essential for your EC2 machine? So answer is yes. You have to create VPC. You have to attach VPC to your EC2 machine. Without VPC, you cannot create EC2 machine. So till now we haven't created VPC. So how can we are able to create an EC2 machine? We were able to create EC2 machine till now. How? So Amazon has created default VPC in each available in each region. Amazon has created one VPC for you so that you can start your practice of AWS without worrying about VPC. There is a default VPC. Okay, so there are few drawbacks or few advantage of default VPC. You can use where you should use default VPC, where you don't want to configure your own VPC for practice purpose, for general scenarios. For but if you're working in company, if you're working in organization, you should always create a custom VPC with a given range of IP addresses. So if you go to your console, just type VPC. So right now I'm in Sydney. Let me switch to Mumbai. Now you can see here, this is a default VPC. There is a one VPC which is created by Amazon for us. So every region will have one VPC. That is a default VPC created by Amazon. Okay. Now we can modify the default VPC, but we are not going to touch default VPC. There be a default VPC which Amazon has provided. We are not going to play with this. We are going to create our own custom VPC. Now, what are the features of default and what is the comparison with custom VPC? So, default VPC is user friendly, allow you to intermediately deploy in the instance, allow you to immediately deploy the instance. You don't need to know anything about networking to able to provision and deploy instance to AWS console. All subnets in default VPC are route to internet. That means they have internet access. So this is important. So till now, whatever the EC2 machine which we have created, we are able to connect that EC2 machine over the internet. That means that the machines have internet connection. Okay, that means why their machine have internet connection? Because all the subnet, okay, all network or subnetwork in default VPC has internet access. Okay, this is important topic. That's why we don't prefer to use default VPC. We can create more subnets, we can create more private subnets, but we are not going to use default VPC in further applications. Okay, all subnet in default VPC have route to internet. Each EC2 machine instance have both public and private net IP ranges. Always remember, each EC2 machine will have public and private IP address. If it's a private machine, if you remove the public IP address, that means the machine will be having only private IP address. But private IP address is necessary. Okay. If you remove the public IP address, doesn't matter, but each machine will have private IP address attached to it. If you delete a default VPC, you can recover it now, but you can delete your VPC, default VPC which Amazon has created. Okay, you can go here and delete the VPC, but never delete the default VPC. Don't play with default VPC. Don't do any changes in default VPC. Okay, previously it was very difficult to recover the default VPC or recreate the default VPC, but nowadays Amazon has given a provision that you can recover the default VPC. But always remember, my recommendation is that do not touch default VPC. If you want to do any Customization, create your own custom VPC and do there. Okay, VPC peering will comes to that. Okay, any question till here? Now we are going to learn step by step how we can create a VPC. Okay, now in your assignments, in I have given 4 steps. Okay, this is a combined full creation of VPC, but I have divided the whole VPC into 4 subsections, and each section you have it is written how we can create VPC step by step. Okay, now create a VPC. So assignment number 1 says create a VPC. Okay, before creating a VPC, let's go to console and see what are the properties of default VPC. So you can see right now I'm in Mumbai and there is a default VPC run created for me. If you click here in the subnet section, you will see 3 subnets. You will see 3 subnets are created for you. Each subnet is attached to one availability zone. Okay, each subnet has to be attached to a availability zone. So how many availability zones are there in Mumbai? There are 3 availability zones in Mumbai region. So that's why Amazon has created 3 subnets in each availability zone. One subnet in each availability zone. That is 3 subnets. If you go to Virginia, Virginia has 6 availability zone. So by default, Amazon has created 6 subnet for you. Okay. So in default VPC, you will have default subnets available. Now, if you see, the IP range of my VPC is this. So if I type CIDR, and just type 172.31.0.0/16. So 65,000 IPs are there in my default VPC. I can create up to 65,000 machines. There will be no issue for IP ranges. Okay. No, this is a default VPC which Amazon has created. Okay. No. If you have created a VPC, at the time of creation of VPC, you have to specify the IP range. If you want to increase, you can't increase after create. You can't edit the IP range after VPC is created. Okay, that's why you have to create your custom VPC. If you require more IP addresses, so if you see, I have shown you the range of IP addresses available, right? Which are these are the IP addresses available, right? And slash, so you can create your custom VPC then if you want more IP addresses. Right now these are private IP. Yes. Okay, so default VPC comes with 65,000 IP addresses. Now subnets we have seen. Now each subnet you can see is divided into each your default VPC is divided into small subnets. You can see the IP ranges of the subnet. So 172.31.32.0 slash 20. Now you can see here the subnet number 1 has IP at range of 172.31.32.1 till 31.47.254. and total IP is 4000. So out of 64,000 or 65,000 IP ranges, we have split into small group called subnet, and this subnet has IP range of 4000. Then there is second subnet, same /20 /20. So it has 4000 IP addresses each. So we have divided our 64,000, 65,000 IP into small subnet. It is called subnetworking. That is 64,000. Out of that, 4000 each. So you can see here available IP addresses. Okay, and subnet associated to which VPC it is mapped here. Availability zone ID and default subnet. These are the default subnets. Okay, when we create our custom subnet, you will see the answer is will be no. And okay, that's it. Okay, now if we go to route table, now you can see this is a route table. This is attached to our default VPC. So whenever we have to understand what are the properties which are there in default VPC. There is an internet gateway attached to our default VPC. Aggregate internet not required, not elastic IP. There is no elastic IP. NAT gateway. There is no NAT gateway right now in default VPC. NACL. So there is one NACL attached to our default VPC. Security group. So you can see we have created a security group, but there will be a default security group which was created by default. You can see default security group for your VPC. We have created our own security group, but all these are in default VPC. We created our own subnet security group in our default VPC. Then not required. Okay. Now go to your assignment. It is saying that create a VPC. So step by steps, let's go to VPC. Click here on the create VPC. Okay. So VPC only, give name my VPC, my custom VPC, my VPC. It's your choice what name you want to give. Okay. Let this be default. If you require IPv6, you can enable that. But for IPv4, you have to give the CIDR range. So what CIDR range or IP ranges we are giving? 10.0.0.0/16. So how many IPs I will get? Let's go to this 10.0.0.0/16. It is in my network. I'm allocating 65,000 IP addresses starting with 10.0.0.0, but 0 is reserved. That's why it is showing usable IP as 1 up to 10.0.255.255. Last IP is also reserved. That's why 254 it is showing here. Okay, this is IPv4. If you want to enable IPv6, you can enable here. Okay, for VPC I'm enabling, but we are not going to use IPv6 anywhere. But here you can allocate, even you can allocate your own IPv6 ranges if you want. Okay, you have to enable the pool, but that's not required right now. 10 default. Just create VPC. So this is a property of our VPC. If you click on the VPC section, now this you can see the name my VPC. Okay, so this is my VPC ID. This is my VPC ID. Okay, now to differentiate between the default and our VPC, just see the VPC ID is very huge for our custom VPC. For default VPC ID is quite small. as compared to custom VPC. The IP ranges IPv4, IPv6, routable main ACL. This we are going to cover. Is this a default VPC? No. Okay. If you click on my VPC, custom VPC, you will see the same thing here. IP range, IPv4, IPv6. Now this they have added new thing, resource new. Okay, all the things will be in a single page. Okay, we'll see that. CIDR range, flow log. We are going to learn about flow log after some time. But these are the right now property of our VPC. Now, after creating our VPC, what are the things which we are created by default? There are few things which are created or not. Let's see. Let's go to subnet. Previously also there was 3 subnet. Now also there are 3 subnet, and these are the default subnets attached to our default VPC. If you check here, this is our default VPC. That means no subnet is created for our VPC. Route table. There are 2 route tables now. This one was for default VPC. This is for VPC which we have created. Okay, so route table is created. Let's go internet gateway. No, only one internet gateway that is attached to internet, our default VPC. Then endpoint, there is no endpoint. NAT gateway, there is no NAT gateway. NACL, nice. Again, you can see NACL is created for our new VPC. Security group, let's check the security group. Again, a security group is created for our VPC. Okay, so note, whenever you're creating a VPC, new route table is created, NACL is created or network access control list is created, and a security group is created. So keep this thing thorough. This is quite asked in exam or interview. So whenever we are creating a new VPC, route table, NACL and security group are created for our custom VPC. So there will be no subnet created. We have to manually create a subnet. Why we have to create manually? Because we have to give the IP ranges in each subnet. Okay, we can give any IP range. So let's create 2 subnet. Why 2 subnet? Because I will create one as a public and other as a private. So go to subnets, create subnet, select your VPC, give any name you want to your subnet, but for simplicity, okay, I am giving the IP range, the name, and in which altitude I am going to create this one. So AP South 1. So each subnet need to be attached to a availability zone. You can only have one availability zone in each subnet. One subnet, one availability zone. But in a given availability zone, there can be multiple subnet. In a availability zone, there can be multiple subnet, but each subnet, one availability zone. IP range 10.0.0.0/16 is our VPC. You can see in VPC we have /16 IP range. Out of that, we are giving only 24. Okay, I am not enabling IPv6. Let it be. If you want, you can enable in your subnet. So this is my subnet A. So now if you see here, this is the IP range we have given to our subnet. Okay, my bad. I have to give one, so I can change it. Can I edit the setting? IP ranges? No, I can't edit the IP ranges. Okay, let me delete and recreate. Delete subnet. VPC 10.0.1.0 AP South 1A availability zone 1A IP range 10.0.1.0/24. Okay, 1.0. Create. This is the first subnet we have created. Now you have to create a second subnet. Okay, create VPC 10.0.2.0/24. Okay, AP South 1 B. You can give any name. You can select any uh, availability zone, but here you have to give the IP range properly, because after that you can't modify. Once created, you cannot modify. So I have created two subnets. Okay, this is in availability zone 1A and other is availability zone 1B. You can see here. Okay, now what are the IP ranges which we have given? Let's check. 10.1.0./24. Now you can see the total IP ranges in this subnet is 256. 256 IP should be there. Let's check how many available IPs are there. Here you can see the available IP 251, but here it is showing 256. Where are the 5 IP addresses? Okay, so note the available IP addresses and check this URL. I think these URLs are changed. Let me check. Okay, um, okay, here IP address CIDR range. So Amazon has changed the page. So here you can see Amazon has changed the pages. Previously it was on the master page. subnet in VPC. They have uh, okay, yes, okay. Here subnet CIDR block. Okay, so here you can see Amazon has reserved 5 IP addresses. So first 4 IP addresses and the last IP address in a network is not available for use. They cannot be assigned to a resource such as EC2 machine. So if this is your CIDR range, the first 4 IPs will be reserved by Amazon. The first IP will be network IP reserved for AWS and VPC routing, reserved by AWS, reserved by AWS. And the last IP is reserved for broadcasting. So out of 400 IPs, 450, sorry, 250, 256, Amazon has reserved 5 IP. So each subnet you are creating, 5 IPs will be reserved. In each subnet, 5 IPs will be reserved. Okay. So let me change the URL. Okay. So remember this thing. Now let's say the first subnet we are going to use it for public access. We are providing the first IP subnet for as a public subnet. That is this one. Just I'm giving a name. Doesn't make it public right now. I'm just renaming, giving a name. Okay. Now this is a one thing you have to do. You have to enable auto assign public IP, auto assign IP addresses. So whenever any EC2 machine will attach to this subnet, it will get a public IP address. So select this subnet, go to action and edit subnet. Just enable this auto assign public IP address. It will not make our subnet public right now. It will just assign a public IP address to the EC2 machine. That's it. Or the machine which is attaching to the subnet. It is not making our subnet public right now. So when okay, till here we have done. Now create an internet gateway. Create an internet gateway. So let's go to the diagram first before moving further. So whenever we creating a VPC, by default security group, NACL and route table are created. This is the diagram. Now we have created 2 subnets, public subnet and private subnet. We haven't enabled the public right now. We have created 2 subnets. We have named them as a public and private. And NACL, route table and security group are there already. These are a default one. Okay. Now after this, next step is create a internet gateway. Create a internet gateway. So go to your here in the left side, internet gateway. This is right now used for default VPC. Create an internet gateway. My internet gateway. IGW. Okay. Create. Now this is created. This internet gateway is created, but you can see the state is detached. That means it is not connected to any VPC. So go to action and attach it to VPC. Select it and go to action. So now you can see it is showing my VPC. Just attach it. Simple, done. Okay. Now always remember, in a given VPC you can only attach one internet gateway. Okay, in your laptop you can only enable Wi-Fi, or you can enable LAN cable. You cannot enable two network in your mobile, in your laptop. So okay, so in VPC only one internet gateway. If you create a new internet gateway, I have created another internet gateway, and let's try to connect this to our VPC. Attach. Now you can see there is no drop down, and it also it is saying that there is no VPC which require internet. So one VPC, one internet gateway. Always remember, if you're trying to attach multiple VPC, multiple internet gateway to given VPC, it is not possible, and vice versa is also not possible. Okay, one internet gateway to multiple VPC, no. It's a one-to-one mapping. One internet gateway, one VPC. That's it. Okay. So right now I just has attached internet gateway. That's it. If I'm attaching, doesn't mean that our subnets are public now. No. I have just attached the internet gateway. That's it. Okay. Now route table and EC2 machines. Okay. So now this part is important. Routing. All things are played by routing. How you want to route the traffic. That's where route table will come in picture. Before that, anybody has any question? What we are doing? Why we are doing? So we are setting up a network for our cloud. In our cloud, we are setting up our custom network. If you are creating a custom network, you have to assign each and every component and make them a public or private. After network is created, then only you are will able to create EC2 machine or any other application. Okay. Now, just imagine your VPC as a society. If you want to imagine how how the routing works in VPC, just imagine VPC as your society. Okay, and this is your boundary. Inside that society, this is one building, this is second building, this is admin building. Let's say in your campus, this is admin, and this is your department, right? Just assume this is admin. Now, what is internet gateway? Internet gateway is your main gate in your society, and this is admin building, and this is your department. And what is router? Router is basically, it is a path between your internet gateway or admin path or department. Router or route table basically creates the path between your subnets. Okay, it create a path between your subnets. Now, before going to internet gateway, let's check the route table which is created by default. Let's check the configuration of route table. This is the route table. This is the default route table which was created in default VPC. Now this is the default or main route table which is created for our VPC. If you click on routes, or this is route table, now you will see the IP address of our VPC, and slash here target is local. Target is local. That means all the subnet all subnets are connected to each other via this router. All subnets are connected with each other. That means this is connected with each other by a router. Okay, so if you are creating new subnet, if I'm creating a new subnet, it will be attached to my router. I will see how. You can see here subnet associate. So right now there is no subnet attached to this main route table, but here there is one warning. Following subnets have not been explicitly means अलग से associated to any route table and are therefore associated with main route table. So one disclaimer, each subnet each subnet needs to attach to one route table or one router. Each subnet needs to attach to one router. Okay, we can create multiple router, but each subnet needs to be attached to one router. You can assume router as a path. So each building needs to be have one pathway. Each building has to be have one pathway in your society. So let's say this is that pathway. This is a road right now. This is a main road. Okay, it is not attached to internet right outside the world right now. You can say this is a main route. Now if this is my building, this building needs to be attached to this path, main road. So if you are not explicitly saying that, if you are not explicitly attaching the any subnet to any other path, let's say there is one more path. Okay, there is another pathway. This is another pathway. If you are not attaching your subnet to any of the path, by default which path it will attach? Main path, right? If you're not attaching your subnet or your building to any of the path, this is your building. If you're not attaching building to any of the path, by default it is attached to the main path. Okay, this is another building. This is by default attached to the main path. So if you are attaching or not, by default it will be attached to the main. Is it clear? So whenever you are creating a subnet, it is attached to main route table by default. This is a property. Why? Because if you are not attaching it to any other, it will be attached to the main, because each subnet required a route table, each building required a path. So if it is attached to main route table, that means each subnet is able to communicate with each other. So this building can communicate to this building using main route table. Is it clear till this point? Yes or no? So understand the traffic flow. So if there is a person in this building needs to communicate to this person in this building. So what you can do, using this pathway, the main route, it can go and communicate with this. Agree? Yes or no? So this is my subnet public. This is my subnet private. Now, what is my public and private? Basically, if I want this building to be public, that means if I have a gate, if I have a gate, this is my main gate, which is giving the access to outer world. Okay, if I want to give access to this building, so I have to create a path. I have to create a path, right, to this building, but nothing will go directly. Everything has to go to the router or a pathway. So this is my main pathway. If I attach or I give the part to the main road, what will happen? What will happen if I give access of main gate to the main path? What will happen? This subnet is also become public. You can see here path. I just wanted to give this building as a public access, but you can see this building also got public access. Now if I create a new subnet, if I'm creating a new subnet, by default which pathway this sorry, if I create a new building, if I create a new building, this building will be attached to which path? By default main path. If I'm creating another building, this will be attached to the main path by default. So whenever we are creating a subnet, it will be attached to the main route. And if we are making main route public accessible, then any new building which is created will be having public access by default. Do we want to give default access, public access to any of the building? Same goes with here. Let's understand with the public subnet and private subnet. This is my main route table, right? Main route table, router. Now both the subnets are attached to main route table right now. Agree? And this is my internet gateway. This is my IGW internet gateway. Okay. If this is the entry point to the world for my network, right? If I attach my internet gateway to main route table, what will happen? Okay, it is main route. If I attach internet gateway to main route table, what will happen? My both subnets will get internet access, both subnet, as well as if I create a new subnet, by default if I create a new subnet, where it will attach to which route table? Main route table. Again, if I'm creating a new subnet, it will be attached to main route table. Now you can see if I'm attaching internet gateway to main route table, all the new subnets will also get internet access. Yes or no? Is this recommended that whenever creating anything, it should be public? If I'm creating anything, it should be public by default or private. Any resource which we are creating, it should be private by default. You have to make it explicitly public. Okay. So if I'm creating anything, it is going to attach to main route table. So I can't give internet access to main route table. That means Okay, I can't give internet access to main route table. So what I can do? Create another router. Create another router and name it public route table. Okay, create another router and name it public route table. Now give internet access to this router. Okay, so this is my public. So here it is a green. It has internet access now, right? Now I want to make this subnet public. So just remove this connection and attach to this subnet. Is similar to here. If I want to make this thing public, just create a new path. Create a new pathway and attach this pathway to the main gate and to this building, and delete this path with the main table. Okay, so this path is attached to different pathway. Now if I'm creating a new subnet, if I'm creating a new subnet, this subnet will attach to main route table, default route table. Is this route table has internet? No. So all these subnets are now private. Clear this thing? Anybody has any question on this, please let me know. Why we are creating a public route table? Why we are not using the route table which is available by default? Clear? So how can we configure that thing? So you can see here, create a new route table, name it public route. So go to your VPC. Here you can see the route table. This is main route table. I don't want to attach internet to this main route table. So create a new route table, name it and attach to my VPC. Now you can see here again same IP address is local. Okay. In this there is no subnet right now. You can see no subnet. But in main route table you will see all subnets are here. Okay. But here there is no subnet. Okay. By default everything will go to mains route table. And one more thing, all the subnets will always communicate with each other. Huh? All subnets will always communicate to each other via route tables. Route table do communicate with each other. Okay, but there will be no internet access. Now, here I want to attach this thing to internet gateway, right? I have to attach this to internet gateway. So click on the route table which you want to attach to internet. Go to routes, click on edit routes. Okay, open to world means 0.0.0.0 all the IP ranges. Go to internet gateway and you will see your internet gateway. So that means now your route table is connected to internet. Your main your public route table is connected to internet. So this connection is created. How you can create? Select the router, go to go to route table, select the routes and just add 0.0.0.0/0 to internet gateway. You can see here. If you want to enable IPv6, you can enable this thing. Okay, now subnet association. Now go to subnet association and add the subnet which you want to make it public. Click here, and I want this subnet to be public. So I am explicitly adding. Right now you can see both are in main route table. Both are in main route table. I am explicitly attaching it to other route table. Now you can see here. This is attached to our custom route table. Clear? That means this route table has internet. This subnet has internet now. So this is a diagram. This is attached to this one. Internet is attached to this one. Okay. Now you can create a EC2 machine. Let's create a EC2 machine. Okay. Go to EC2. Go to your instance. Launch instance. Name it public EC2 machine. Now key value pair you can use the existing one, but network setting. In the network setting, click on edit. Till now we were not changing this. Here now change my VPC. Okay, and here which subnet you want to use, AP South 1A or 1B. Okay, so I want to make it public right now, so 1A. Okay, so this machine is public. So which subnet is public? 1A. Now there is no security group. You can see default security group is there, right? The security group which we have created previously was in default VPC. In this VPC there is no subnet security group created for us. So click on here, give name my custom VPC security group. Okay, in this I am enabling SSH and HTTP and HTTPS. Okay, this three protocol I am enabling, and CIDR range is 0.0.0.0/0. Okay, I am creating a new security group. Okay, so as you remember, you have to create security group only one time. You don't have to create it again and again. And just save it. Launch. Now you will say, sir, it's similar to how we are launching the other EC2 machine. Yes, it's similar. Only we are using our custom VPC. If you click here, this is our custom VPC. Now can we connect to this VPC EC2 machine? Yes, we can. Will able to connect. Now you can see there are two IP addresses. One is private and other is public. You can see this is private IP, and the IP, if you check, it's from our VPC 10.0.1.55. What is our subnet range? 10.0.1.0/24. So this EC2 machine was created in public subnet. So one IP is taken. If you check here, refresh it and check, there were 251. Now here 250s are remaining. One is taken by this EC2 machine. Let's create one more EC2 machine. Name it private. Okay. Now In the network settings, select your VPC, security group, sorry, subnet or will be private subnet. Okay, now you can see here auto assign public IP is disabled. Security group, right now you can select default security group. I'm not creating any new security group and just create. Now let's try to connect to public EC2 machine. Connect. Will be able to connect to private EC2 machine. Will be able to connect to private EC2 machine. Now you can see we are able to connect to the public EC2 machine. We are connected. You can see the IP address. But can we connect to the private EC2 machine? Let's check it out. You can see instance doesn't have public IP address. That means this machine is private. You cannot connect to this machine. You will not able to connect to this machine. Why? Because you required a public IP address. If you see here, there is no public IP address for this private machine. You have only private IP address, that is 10.0.2.92. 2.92. If you go to your VPC, this is your subnet. Right now this is 51. If I refresh it, you can see. So this is a private net IP address which will be used for internal communication. There is no public IP address. So means this EC2 machine is private, completely private. Nobody from outside world can connect to this EC2 machine. That's the beauty of our custom VPC. Okay, nobody from outside world, again outside world will not able to connect to this machine. But how can we connect to this machine? Is there any way you can connect to the machine? We will see that tomorrow. But till now, anybody has any question? So in the assignment you can see we covered till step number 6. Create two EC2 machine with different AZ. One is public EC2 machine, second is private EC2 machine, and we have connected to our public EC2 machine. Private EC2 machine we have to connect. Okay, here we are going to cover this thing after tomorrow. Any question? We have create, yes. Okay, उस पर हाँ एक मिनट उस पर करते हैं. Any question on this? Okay, so I'm stopping the recording here.